Quick recap before we go any further. We know where content is stored. We know how to bring content into DAZ Studio. We know how to load it. There's one little tip that I haven't quite shown you that I'm going to address now. And to round this whole grand tour of content off, I'm going to show you how to save content and save scenes that you've made. Let's dive into it. So this quick tip about content that I haven't spoken about. If we just leave our guy, jumping for joy in the center of the scene here, let me head over to my Smart Content tab and I'll go into my Props section and I'll go to the Files tab here. I'm going to go and find something that I can use. I might go and untick this filter by content so that I see every prop in my whole library here. And maybe I'll find something like, I don't know, this DTD floor signage sign. That's just like, one of those, the floor's wet, please don't step on it type signs. So if I go and double click it, then it will, as expected, load in the center of the scene, as we'd expect. But we might not want for that to happen. We might, and this is true for characters as well as props, as well as, pretty much anything and everything. If I wanted to have that at a different point, I can literally double click it and just move it somewhere else, and then just go left click and drag it and put it somewhere else. So that's that little white triangle on the side here that will make that happen. So I can do that, but I may want several signs in my level, and I'm not entirely sure if I wanted to do this every time. If I go and click this, and then I have to go and select the sign, and I have to go and move it somewhere else, and then maybe I'll don't grab the manipulator, and it's all it's all difficult. So there is another way to bring in content, and that's by left clicking and dragging. If I just do this, left clicking and dragging, then it says default load. That's the only option I have, and the same thing happens here. It also remains at the center of the scene. Let me go delete that and do something else, and that is alt left clicking and dragging. And when I do that, hold alt down, left click and drag, then we see that this little red dot appears here with a yellow circle around, and it lets me pick a spot on the floor now that my sign should be loaded in. So maybe I want it to be over here. And then I let go, and then the sign goes over there. And that's kind of nice if we wanted to put in various amounts of these signs here. And then I can always go and left click it, and then maybe go and give it a little rotation here. So that's another way of loading content. And I just thought I'd let you know about this because it makes level building a lot easier. There is, of course, a caveat, like that there so often is. If I go and bring this thing in here, the drink station, let me go and left click and drag that, alt left click and drag that over here, so that we have that. Control F will frame that up. And let's say I wanted to put a coffee cup on this here. This is the coffee mug. Once again, if I go and double click the coffee mug, then the coffee mug will appear in the center of the scene. But if I wanted that to be on the countertop here now, logic would dictate that I could just go alt left click and drag and put it on here. And you think, well, that's kind of where that is. That's like dead center in the scene of on top of that tabletop. I let go, and where's the mug? Mug's gone. It's actually behind here, and it's not really where you put it. And you think, hey, what's happened? Well, DAZ Studio is going to look at the ground plane when it does this. So it will, where that was lined up, this was actually the ground plane. So if I alt left click, then even though I'm hovering on top of the height of the tabletop here, DAZ Studio has no concept of the height of that object. It only knows the ground plane. And if I now keep that in mind, if I keep looking at that spot in 3D space, then I can see, yeah, that's actually where I put that. So to alleviate that, I'm going to go and get rid of these. I recommend that you use your perspective view and just kind of look from the top like so. And then it's kind of going to work. So you go alt left click and drag and put it here. So then it will at least put it in the correct position, but not at the correct height. So you still have to go and have a look at where that coffee mug is. There it is hiding. It's best select that from here. And then you can go and left click and drag this up so that it now sits at least close to where you wanted it to be. So still not in the exact position, but it's a workaround if you do work with height. So it's one of the things to keep in mind. It's kind of nice that there is this way. Usually if you use figures or anything like that that are just ground bound anyway, then it's not a problem. But I just thought I'd mention it. Oh, there's one other thing while I'm talking about this, and this works with both figures as well as props. If I go and delete this, and I'll take my drink station here, my counter, and had this not been on the ground floor, had this been accidentally moved up like this, and I'm thinking, hey, that's just a total mistake, this needs to be on the ground floor, then there is an option that lets us put that there without having to align this manually. You can go and select Control D to drop something to the floor. So that will come in handy if you have people with high heels and you want them to drop to the floor. So if it happens to not be on the floor, just go and hit Control D, and then that'll put that on the floor. There's a menu icon for that as well. That's up here under Edit, Object or Figure. It's both an object and figure, and it's under here, Move to Floor, Control D. That's it. So if you click that, then it does the same thing. It'll just drop things to the floor. I just thought I'd let you know that, because those are the little tips and tricks that we often forget and not talk about.